In today's video, we dive into an alternate reality where Deku is abandoned for having a villain's gift. In part 1, Izuku faces incredible challenges, but he's not alone, he has the support of those who matter most to him. Stay tuned for an emotional and action-packed journey. Have you ever wondered how one day you celebrate your birthday with your mother and sister, and the next day you wait for your mother in a park and realize that she will never arrive? Well, that happened to me. Why does this happen to me? I never thought that having a gift would take away everything I love. Everyone has their gifts and they seem very happy, but my gift is considered that of a villain because it had to happen to me a month before. You can see a green-haired family going to the doctor's office. Their mother took her 2 children to find out their children's gifts. This woman was Inko Midoriya. His eldest son Izuku Midoriya was jumping as he wanted to know his gift and was looked at with a smile by his younger sister whose name was Izumi Midoriya. She was excited but not as much as her brother. After a few hours the doctor came out with a sad face. Inko became worried when she saw him. "Doctor, Mrs. Midoriya, could you accompany me?" As she entered she could see her children smiling, but when she was about to ask, the doctor interrupted her. "Doctor, Mrs. Midoriya, what is your husband's gift and yours?" "Inko, my husband's is breathing fire and mine is being able to attract small objects." "Well, I have good news and bad news. The good thing is that her children have a strong gift. Her daughter Izumi has fire but can only control it through her arms. If she used it all over her body it would hurt her, but with training that would no longer be a problem. On the other hand, with his son, he has a very dangerous gift because of how strong he is. His gift is called Black Shadow. This gift allows him to do anything with his shadow, but the danger of this gift is if his son lets his emotions get the better of him, his gift will react on its own and attack the first person who gets in the way until the boy calms down." Inko was scared when she heard her son's gift but managed to remain calm in front of the doctor when she returned to see her children. Izuku was worried because he does not want to hurt anyone. Izumi looked at her brother with concern but only managed to smile and say, "Don't worry, Oni-chan." So the days passed. Izuku and Izumi had already awakened their gifts, but something that worried them was that Izuku's gift was sometimes activated involuntarily, terrorizing the females, but one day they could not control it. You could see how Izuku was bothered by his classmates, which highlighted Bakugo and Izumi, which began to bother him for fear that no one wanted to be his friend or friend. That day Izuku was too sad since not even on his birthday they could leave him alone, but something that impacted him were the words of his sister, "By a hindrance you became, it makes me feel sorry mom having to deal with a villain son, that's why you are a Deku support." Katsuki both began to laugh, but Izumi only apologized to her brother mentally. When they arrived at their home they found an all-night decoration. Although everyone made fun of Izuku, his mother still had a lot of affection for him. As they were celebrating they heard how they knocked on the door. When they opened it they could see how some of Izuku's classmates and Izumi was outside. Inko saw them and let them in to continue celebrating her children's birthday, but when she saw that she was missing some sodas she went to buy them. When they left all the children began to make fun of Izuku, who was trying not to cry, but Bakugo approached and threw an explosion at his chest, causing him to fall very sore. By instinct his shadow appeared and grabbed Bakugo's hand, which was beginning to feel a very strong pain until a crack sounded. Everyone could hear how Bakugo's wrist broke. Everyone was scared, but they did not realize that the shadow already had them strangling and was getting into their heads. Inko, upon arriving, could only see how Izuku hurt his companions, instinctively tried to get closer, but the shadow attacked her, injuring her on the head. When she recovered, crying, she only chose to make Izuku see reason. When he realized what he was doing, he only released his companions who were fainted. Quickly, Izuku's shadow covered the bodies, leaving them as good as new. This surprised Izuku, but when he returned to see his mother, he could see the horror in her eyes. He quickly tried to get closer but couldn't because of his mother's screams. Izuku claimed he only chose to lock himself in his room. The next day Izuku could only hear how his friend's parents thanked his mother for offering to take care of their children, since Inko, seeing that the children did not wake up, decided to lie to their parents that they were going to stay overnight at her house. Note: Inko wouldn't have any problem because Izuku's shadow only made them believe that it had all been a dream and Izuku never attacked them, much less his sister who remembered everything. Upon going up he could see how Izumi did not want to enter her room for fear Inko not being able to bear it would make the worst decision she could have ever made in her entire life. Without saying anything she just approached her daughter and with a blow to the back of the head she knocked her out. By leaving her in her room and locking it she went to her other son who did not want to come out. Upon entering, she could only see how her son had fallen asleep after crying with all the pain in his soul. She held her son and took him to her car. After a few minutes, she could see how some green-haired men were outside the city in an Inko park, wanting to cry. She just left her son on a bench with a backpack and a note asking for forgiveness. After hugging him for the last time, she got into her car and left, leaving our protagonist there asleep on a bench. Izuku narrates, "I hate my quirk, All it has brought me has been misfortune. Because of my damn quirk I lost my family. Because of my damn quirk everyone considers me a villain. Because of this damn quirk my life was ruined. You might wonder why Izuku was so angry a few moments before. You could see how a green-haired boy woke up, but he felt different. He felt the cold all over his body. When he got up he could see how he was outside the city in a park at night. The little green-haired boy panicked when he saw where he was. He quickly got up but noticed how a paper fell to the ground. When he picked it up he could see how it said for Izuku. When he started to read his heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Letter from Inko Midoriya. My little Izuku, I'm sorry for not having been a strong mother. I'm sorry for not being able to take care of you like I promised your father, but I couldn't stand it anymore. Your gift terrified me, but listen to me, my baby, no, my little hero, I know that you will achieve your dreams even if you don't have us. Keep fighting for what's right and being able to prove wrong to the other people who fear your uniqueness. I hope that one day you can forgive Izumi and me. I love you with all my heart and I hope that you manage to get ahead with love, your mom. After Izuku finished reading his mother's letter, he knelt down and began to cry. He knew it was because of his quirk, but it was also his fault for not being able to control it. With the little sparkle he had left in his eyes, he stood up and saw that on the bench was his backpack. When he checked it, he could only see his favorite food, katsudon, which was made by his mother, and a photo of him with Izumi and Inko. This only made Izuku cry for a few more moments while he ate his katsudon. He remembered the moments he spent with his family. When he finished eating, he got up and walked away from the place to look for a place where he could stay. The next day you can see a tired Izuku who hadn't stopped walking since he woke up. When he reached an alley, he lay down on the ground and began to rest, but he could see how a hero entered the place. Izuku with a relieved smile called the hero's attention so he could help him, but he didn't expect the hero to just push him back to the ground. Hero, what do you think you're doing, kid? Don't touch me. Izuku, sir, please help me, take me to an orphanage. That's right, Izuku didn't want to go back home because he didn't want to cause any more problems for his family. Hero, don't bother me, kid, I'm not on duty right now and if they left you on the street it must be for a reason, he said as he left. But neither Izuku nor the hero noticed how a man with 2 katanas watched them. Unknown man, false heroes do not deserve to be called heroes. Quickly the hero killer threw a katana at the hero's head, who, upon turning around, only managed to dodge so that the katana did not pierce his head. It is a pity that his arm did not have the same luck since he was lying on the ground. Hero, damn my arm, who the hell are you? Hero killer, I am Stain and I will cleanse humanity of false heroes like you. While with Izuku I was in shock seeing how the hero's arm was on the ground shedding too much blood. The hero paled upon hearing the name since Stain had managed to kill several heroes and not even the top heroes could catch him. Hero, please don't do anything to me, I haven't done anything wrong, I beg with great fear. Stain, true heroes help people without receiving anything in return. You left the poor child to his fate. The hero quickly grabbed Izuku by the neck, who hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Ha ha ha, what do you think would happen if you accidentally hurt the 5-year-old boy while he was using Izuku as a shield? Stain could see how Izuku was starting to run out of rage because when Hera was a child a hero used him as a shield against some pieces of metal which had impacted Stain, remembering that he couldn't help but compare Izuku with his past self without the hero realizing Stain had launched himself against the hero. The hero out of surprise didn't manage to react in time, being decapitated by Stain's katana. Stain, upon returning to see the boy, could see how he had fainted from everything that had happened to the hero. Sighing, Stain just picked up the child and took him to an abandoned building because it wouldn't be the first time a child was accused of murder just for being present at the crime scene. When Izuku got up he saw that he was in a room which by the looks of it seemed to be abandoned. With fear he only managed to leave the room. When he left he could see a figure on an armchair which seemed to be asleep. Izuku, very scared because he thought he was kidnapped, tried to leave through the main door, but halfway there he heard the guy's voice. Stain, you better not even think about escaping, we need to talk, he said in his usual serious tone. Out of fear, Izuku only managed to stand there waiting for the figure to get up from the chair. As they approached Izuku, he could see how he looked at him with some fear and curiosity, which surprised him, but leaving that aside, he decided to make the boy tell him why he was in that alley. Izuku, with no other options, decided to tell him his story and why he was in that place. A few moments later, a silent Stain can be seen while a little green-haired boy cried, remembering why he had been abandoned. Stain, boy, I know it hurts, but it's not your quirk's fault, it's your fault. If you had dedicated yourself to training it, you could have controlled it better and you wouldn't run the risk of losing control. Izuku got angry at those words. It couldn't be his fault, it was all his quirk's fault, right? Without realizing it, His quirk was activated, standing behind Izuku. Stain, noticing it, just gave a small smile. "You see what I mean? With a few simple words I made your gift activate without you realizing it. That's why you hurt your companions. You have no control over yourself, and it's because you don't control it." Izuku, seeing that his shadow was raised behind him, the Aryan eyes, his shadow did not act on its own, his shadow acted because he did not know how to control his gift. Izuku in a small whisper said then he was just looking for someone to blame for everything. Stain could hear him, and with his serious voice he said, "That's the truth, kid. You didn't want to take responsibility for losing everything because of you. Stain, your gift may look like a villain's, but you are the one who gives meaning to your peculiarity. Boy, your gift is not bad, it just lacks control." Izuku burst into tears at those words as he realized everything. He knew he couldn't solve it, but he wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Stain, seeing him, said with a small smile, "I'll help you with your problem, boy." We are outside the city. A month had passed since Izuku started training with Stain, and I could see small progress with his quirk. He was able to discover the ability to heal, which he had used when he attacked his companions, but currently we can see how a green-haired man ran with all his strength from Stain, who more than training wanted to kill him. You wonder why? Why would Stain be so angry with Izuku? Well, the reason is that Izuku had broken Stain's katana with his shadow when he tried to use it and hit it against his shadow. It had broken, and upon realizing this, Stain felt the urge to kill Izuku. "Izuku, Stain-sensei, excuse me, it wasn't my intention, I promise, I just wanted to try it." "Stain, when I catch you, brat, I swear I'll make you pay, not even your shadow will be able to cure you." They were like this for about 2 hours until Stain had caught Izuku, who was more than scared. A few moments later you can see a wounded Izuku exercising while Stain looked at him with a threatening look. Narrates Stain, "At first I only helped him because he reminded me of myself, but this little one has brought excitement to my life, and all the time I've known him I haven't seen him give up even when I do. Let him train twice as hard, he never disobeys me, he just follows my orders. His desire to not make that mistake again is so great that he doesn't care that his body asks him for a rest, he continues with his goal." 2 years later. Stain, "What a kid until you finally managed to defeat me in unarmed combat. I like that. You have improved your skills with your gift and also without it, but you lack experience in combat with weapons." You can see a very tired Izuku in all this time he spent with Stain. He had never managed to beat him with his bare fists, but he was finally able to subdue him and obtain victory. But when he heard that he lacked experience in combat with weapons, he broke out in a cold sweat, since Stain was a damn monster with the katana, to the point of putting a top hero in trouble with his ability. Flashback. You could see how the hero killer was fighting with a top hero. The hero's advantage was clearly noticeable, but Stain was able to turn the fight around by taking out his katana. The hero could not follow Stain's movements. Stain, seeing that the hero was lowering his guard, managed to cut his right cheek, but the consequences of the act were a punch to the chest, causing 4 ribs to break. He quickly licked the hero's blood, paralyzing him and escaping from the scene. Upon arriving at the abandoned building, Izuku, who had seen everything on television, fell to the ground and covered Stain with his shadow to heal him. End of flashback. Stain had made Izuku practice constantly with a stick so that he would learn little by little, and he could see that he took it very seriously. This boy will go through hell until he can master the art of the katana. So years passed. A 10-year-old Izuku found himself jumping from wall to wall in the dark night. During this time, he had managed to acquire decent skill with his katana, and in the last year Stain had made him become a vigilante so that he could learn the work that would follow when he becomes a hero. After finishing patrolling, he went to his apartment, which was in a very bad-looking neighborhood where not even the police dared to enter very often. When he arrived, he couldn't see his sensei. He only thought that he was once again purging false heroes while he was not there. Izuku decided to start writing a letter. You might wonder who that letter was for, because Izuku started writing a letter a month to his mother some time ago. But it wasn't like that with his sister. He didn't write to her because she had made his life impossible when he was a child together with his old friend Katsuki. The only time he wrote her a letter, the only thing he received was that he shouldn't write to her anymore for being a coward and not returning in all this time. In the Midoriya's apartment, a green-haired woman could be seen preparing food. This woman was Inko Midoriya, and she looked happy because the next day she would be able to receive a letter from her son, as she had done last year. She was happy to know that Izuku didn't hate her, but she was saddened to know that he wouldn't be returning to them. Inko was unaware of Izumi's behavior towards Izuku when they were children. While with Izumi was sorry. She wanted Izuku's forgiveness, but for not thinking things through, she called him a coward for not returning home. She wanted to see him one more time and ask for his forgiveness. Unaware, a small shadow rose up behind Izumi, but at the same time it disappeared again. While with Izuku after finishing writing the letter he went to his old home. Upon arriving he left the letter in the mailbox and quickly left. When he was returning he could see how some men were harassing a girl. Without hesitation he just approached and with his stealth he knocked out the 4 men. "Girl, thank you very much, I really appreciate it." "Izuku, I just came back to see her, be more careful, this area is dangerous," and she left the place without leaving any trace. Some time had passed and 13-year-old Izuku was leaving school, but this day was different because on this day Izuku knew that his teacher would leave him to his fate, because as he knows. A week ago. You could see how a green-haired man trained hard with his master. When he finished training, he lay down on the ground. He was very tired. His master forbade him from using his quirk to recover energy since the shadow covering Izuku returned part of his energy to him. However, this ability was a double-edged sword. When he stopped using his quirk, Izuku would become completely tired and unable to move. That's why Astain forbade him from using that ability since he would be defenseless and would be a burden to others. He could only use that ability when he knew he was at his limit and was sure he could beat his rival so as not to be at the mercy of his rival. Only in that situation could Izuku use his ability. Astain, seeing the boy catching his breath, only managed to tell him, "In a few days you'll have to watch your back on your own, I won't be there for you anymore." Izuku opened his eyes upon hearing that. He knew that at some point they would separate, but he didn't expect it to be sooner than he expected. Astain, seeing the perplexed boy, continued talking. "Why are you surprised? Did you know that I wouldn't take care of you forever? Besides, you aspire to be a hero. I know that you won't become a false hero. I know you, boy, and if that happens I myself will kick your damn ass to make you see reason. Take this week off to prepare your things and you can take care of yourself." Hearing that, Izuku couldn't help but shed a few tears, but he just stood up and nodded before leaving. The next day you could see an Izuku patrolling as he had always become accustomed to and couldn't stop doing it, but when he returned to see a car he noticed how it was intercepted by 2 motorcycles which exploded, causing the car to spin and flip. When Izuku saw that, he approached to see if the people were okay, but he only saw how some men approached the driver who was covering a black-haired woman who was unconscious. Without thinking, Izuku charged at the attackers, but when he was about to attack the first thug, he felt a bullet lodged in his right leg and chest. Upon impact, he fell to the ground. When he looked up, he could see the thugs approaching. "Thug 1, but we have a boy here who wants to be a hero. What a shame that my uniqueness warns me of danger." "2 Berry Thug, I didn't think you had that kind of reaction time, but now we have to take care of the boy and it has to be quick, the police won't be long in coming." "Thug 3, no need, he has a bullet in his chest and another in his leg, he'll die in a few moments, let's take the girl quickly." Driver curse, "And now what am I going to do? I have to protect Miss Yaoyorozu," but he couldn't continue because he felt a blow to the face, breaking his nose. At that moment the younger Yaoyorozu opened her eyes, seeing how some men approached her. Out of fear she tried to create something, but her mind played tricks on her since she couldn't think properly, and out of fear she just closed her eyes. The thugs, when they were about to grab the black-haired girl, felt a huge pain in their chest since the green-haired boy had recovered and covering his fist with his shadow attacked 2 of the thugs. When trying to hit the third he saw how he dodged the blow. "Bad luck, kid. You forgot my gift." The thug, seeing Izuku, spoke. "You surprise me, kid, that you can move with those wounds. You sure can handle the pain, but you don't have much time left. We gave you serious injuries." The black-haired girl opened her eyes and saw a green-haired man fighting against his attackers, but when she heard the thug's words she saw blood coming out of his chest, leaving her in shock. Izuku smiling, "But what wounds are you talking about? If you haven't seen me, my wounds have already healed." The thug, seeing that the boy didn't have any wounds, thought that his quirk was healing, so if he hurt him seriously he would have the advantage of winning. Without thinking much he launched himself at Izuku, who upon seeing him dodged him without problem, but when Izuku was going to attack he could see how the thug spun quickly and taking out needles from his hands he stabbed Izuku in the arm. Thug, haha boy, what reflexes, but these syringes secrete a substance that will make you tire as quickly as possible. That guy wasn't lying when he said that this gift was too strong. This place will be the end of you. Hearing that, Izuku opened his eyes. He didn't think that this thug was related to the villain Astain told him about. Flashback. You can see how Astain patrolled with Izuku. When seeing that nothing was happening, Astain began to speak. "Izuku, listen to me carefully. If one day you meet a villain who can steal gifts, do not try to fight him. He is at a higher level than mine. The last thing I heard about him is that he had been badly injured, but he has people he bribes them by giving him more gifts. That is why it is better that if you fight one of them you do not hold back." End of flashback. Izuku, damn, my body is already starting to weigh me down. I have to finish this as quickly as possible without waiting a moment longer. Izuku launched himself at the thug. The thug, upon seeing him, just smiled and could have dodged it, but his danger quirk warned him that there was someone behind him. When he dodged the boy's blow, he turned away, but was surprised to see the boy's shadow throw a punch that hit him in the face, making him retreat. Damn, where did that come from? He can't dodge it. This kid has other gifts. I'd better tell him before he becomes a danger. But the thug couldn't keep thinking as he had to dodge a low kick from Izuku's shadow and a punch from the real Izuku. You can't lose focus in a fight, otherwise it will be a guaranteed victory for me. He said this with a tone of relief, but inside Izuku's head, damn, this is bad. In a few moments, I'll run out of energy, and that will be the end of me. Thug seeing Izuku could notice the sweat on his face. Haha, I see it on your face, my substance has taken effect, you don't have much left, I'll finish you off. The thug lunged at Izuku, who sent his shadow flying. When he saw it, he smiled and with a punch made the shadow sink. Without thinking much, he began to approach our protagonist, but when he was going to give the final blow, he received a kick that wasn't as strong, but it distracted him for a while. When he came back to look, he could see how the girl they were planning to kidnap had thrown herself at him. Thug, don't tell me that was a good blow. When he was going to hit the black-haired girl, he felt like he couldn't move his body. When he looked down, he saw how Izuku's shadow covered his entire body except his head. When he turned back to see the boy, he could only see how a blow was approaching his face, and when it hit, everyone present could hear how his nose broke in a very painful way. Izuku, seeing the distraction created by the black-haired girl, covered his enemy with his shadow without thinking about anything else and launched his last blow against the criminal, managing to defeat his enemy. Izuku, upon returning to see the girl, saw her with a face of relief but turned to see the driver, who was trying to stop his nosebleed. The driver, seeing the green-haired man approaching, was afraid of seeing how he would send his shadow against him, but when he was covered he could feel how his nose stopped hurting. When he opened his eyes he noticed that his nose was no longer broken. Driver, boy, how did you do it? But when he looked up he saw the green-haired man pleading. The black-haired girl, seeing him complain, approached him. Today, that was amazing. You were at the level of the villains. When Izuku returned to see her, he just said they should wait for the police patrols, they would arrive soon, and continued on his way. The driver, seeing that the boy who saved his life and Miss Yaoyorozu could only speak. Driver, boy, you don't need an ambulance. Seeing how the green-haired man turned around, it's not necessary, I'd better go. Driver, hoy, if you ever need a favor, don't hesitate to look for me by throwing a card to Izuku. If you ever want a job, come and find me. Izuku picked up the letter and left. The black-haired girl, seeing that the green-haired boy was leaving, was going to speak but turned away at the sound of the police sirens, and when she returned to look, Izuku was no longer there. So the week had passed, taking us back to the present wherein Izuku entered his apartment, but upon entering and heading to his room he could see a gift on his desk. Upon getting closer he could see a note. When she opened it and read it, she could only shed a few tears and let out a small smile. The letter said, Izuku, I'm leaving this for you as my last help. I assure you that we will meet again, but things will be different. Don't think that because you're my apprentice I'll be merciful to you. Be strong, and when we have to fight, I hope you can beat me. End of the letter. When opening the gift he could see that inside there was a katana which was black with a green handle. Izuku, when he took it, he smiled but noticed how a paper fell from the katana case. As he read it, he felt his appreciation for his sensei disappear as he read the contents of the paper. What it said was, P.S. Izuku, I made the gift with your money. You better take the job offer that guy gave you. You're out of money. Good luck, kid. Izuku, who was obviously upset, only managed to shout to the four winds, Estain. Elsewhere, a Estain could be seen with a new katana, and upon seeing it, he did something he hadn't done in a long time. He smiled and laughed a little when he knew how his apprentice would react. We can see how a green-haired man was heading to a bar. You might wonder why. Well, Izuku was heading there because he needed an urgent job, all for which he spent all his money. Izuku, I can't believe I have to accept that job offer. I hope it's an exciting job, but out of all the places we could meet, we had to go to a bar. Well, let's see what he offers me. We can see how Izuku was sitting at a secluded table, but he was not alone since he was with a man who was trying to convince Izuku. Driver, you don't seem to accept the job, you'd adapt too quickly, and it's not very demanding. I don't see any problem with not accepting. Izuku, you're offering me to be the coach and bodyguard of the Yaoyorozu's daughter, and to top it off you're telling me that if I accept I'll have to transfer to Miss Yaoyorozu's school and I have to go live in that mansion. Of course I don't see a problem with that, he said the last part in a sarcastic tone. Driver, come on, help me. They won't let me come back if I don't bring you with me. Besides, Miss Yaoyorozu is very interested in you. Izuku just stood up, but as he started to leave he heard something that interested him. "Driver, the sum of money is not small and you could also have a new vigilante suit." Izuku just sat back down as they know I'm a vigilante and tell me more about their offer. "Driver, when we investigated you, we didn't find any trace of you, but we did find your family, who would receive a monthly payment if you accept the job. And if you're wondering how we know you work as a security guard, we only collected a few recordings and we found out, and we'll give you support if you accept." Izuku was thinking about it. If he accepted, he could help his family because as far as he knew his mother was working 2 jobs, this would help them rest and it didn't sound bad at all to have a new vigilante suit. "Okay, I'll accept the job, but on one condition." The driver just sighed in relief as he didn't want to deal with Miss Yaoyorozu's fury for not being able to convince her savior. "Driver, okay, it's great that you accept, but what would be your condition?" "Izuku, I don't want to wear those silly servant outfits." The driver felt a bit deflated upon hearing this, as he loved his suit. "Well, I'll tell Mr. Yaoyorozu and in a few days we'll start with the paperwork and we'll do your move tomorrow. By the way, one last question, what is your name?" "My name is Izuku Midoriya and your name is?" The driver just jumped. "My name is Naoto Takeyama." Izuku just nodded and said goodbye and left the place. A few moments later. We can see the green-haired boy a little annoyed. "I can't believe he accepted, now I'll have to babysit and to top it all off I have to move, well I better start packing," and so our green-haired boy spends the whole day packing. The next day we can see how Naoto took Izuku to the Yaoyorozu's house. During the trip, Izuku couldn't stop looking out the window. "Naoto, the properties of the Yaoyorozus are very nice, aren't they?" Izuku was startled since when they have been on the Yaoyorozu family grounds. Naoto, seeing Izuku's astonishment, laughed a little. "I also reacted like that when I came for the first time." Izuku just raised an eyebrow. "You haven't told me how you came to work for the Yaoyorozus." "Naoto, it's not a big deal. My family needed the money for my sister's medicine and when I was coming back from school I met Miss Rui who offered me help." Author's note: Miss Rui is Momo's mother and the father is Kurasama. End of note. "Naoto, and why aren't you with your family?" Izuku shuddered upon hearing her question. "Things got complicated and I don't know if they'll want me back there." Naoto, upon hearing it, he knew he had touched on a delicate subject. "Well, everything will be resolved one day. Besides, I have another question, why did you become a vigilante?" But upon not receiving an answer, he returned to see Izuku, who was staring into space as if in a trance. In Izuku's head, "Izumi is right, I'm afraid to go back, I'm a coward for not seeing my family all this time, but I'm afraid they'll abandon me again." His thoughts were interrupted when he heard Naoto calling him. "Naoto, Izuku, hoi Izuku, are you okay?" "Izuku, don't worry, I was just thinking about something." "Naoto, well, I wanted to ask you something, but it will be for next time. We have already arrived at the Yaoyorozus residence." When the car was parked, you could see 3 people looking at them with different reactions. Mr. and Mrs. Yaoyorozu were intrigued, but their daughter was excited. Mr. Yaoyorozu with a serious tone: "Then you are the guy who saved my daughter and Naoto, right?" Izuku: "Yes sir, my name is Izuku Midoriya." Mr. Yaoyorozu: "You don't look so strong, if you don't mind, I ask you to face me to see if you're ready for the bodyguard position. I don't want a weakling taking care of my daughter." Those words amazed Rui and Momo, they didn't know that he would test the boy. Izuku, coming out of his astonishment, just nodded. After a while we can see how a Kurasama and an Izuku were positioned in positions to fight. At the beginning Izuku felt a killer instinct, but it didn't affect him at all since he was used to Astain's instinct, he just decided to send his own instinct. Kurasama, feeling Izuku's instinct, shuddered. He couldn't believe that a boy could give that sensation, but without caring much, he launched himself at Izuku. Both started a fistfight, but Izuku's superiority was noticeable, but at one point Kurasama managed to hit Izuku, who with a movement kicked Kurasama's face, making him take distance. Kurasama, not bad kid, but we had just started and he started attacking. Izuku just stood there waiting for the blow. When he received it, Kurasama noticed that Izuku didn't move an inch. "Izuku, I'm stronger than I look, this fight isn't necessary, I'll be able to protect your daughter, you don't have to worry, Vigilant Kasura." Kurasama opened his eyes as this boy knew his vigilant status, but he didn't expect a kick from Izuku to his stomach. When it hit Kurasama he spat out a little saliva, making him kneel. But when both were about to continue fighting they heard Rui shout, "Enough is enough, you are strong enough to take care of my daughter, I approve of you to be her back's lapdog." Izuku was about to speak but was interrupted by Kurasama. "Kurasama, how do you know I'm Kasura?" Izuku just said you fight like him, you're the one who mistook me for a villain a long time ago. Kurasama remembered that when he was patrolling he saw a boy enter a bank and thought he would rob it. When he entered he didn't notice that there were some unconscious robbers. Izuku was neutralizing the last one, but when he was about to leave he could see how a subject lunged towards him. Both had a small confrontation, but the two noticed how some police patrols stopped in front of the bank. Kurasama, I can't allow you to leave, thief. Izuku, what are you talking about? I came to neutralize the real thieves, while pointing around. There Kurasama noticed how some thieves were unconscious around him, but when he looked back in front of him, Izuku had already left. End of memory. Kurasama, so you were that berry boy who knew how to fight, but now let's finish with the last arrangements. Follow me, I'll show you your room. Izuku was somewhat uncomfortable as he could feel a gaze that never left him. Since he entered his room after finishing tidying up, he decided to go investigate the mansion for a while since they had given him the day off to tidy up his room, but as he turned a corner he could see a brunette standing and watching him. Izuku, a little scared because he didn't feel her at any time, just asked, Miss Yaoyorozu, do you need something? Momo got excited when she heard that. Do you want me to show you the place? Izuku was going to refuse but decided to take her offer when he saw that the place was gigantic. Izuku walked behind Momo, who told him that it was each aviation, but both arrived at the dining room where both could smell a fantastic smell coming out of the kitchen. They began to walk, but when they were about to enter they heard a cup fall. Unknown voice, don't tell me you managed to convince him, but you can't get anyone to accept the job, and if they do, they quit within a week. Second unknown voice, I only managed to do it, and it's because of your eagerness to hit people that they always end up giving up. Izuku, knowing it was Naoto, entered alone with Yaoyorozu. Both boys, upon seeing a green-haired boy and Miss Yaoyorozu enter, only pretended to be cooking. Momo, what were Kurumi and Naoto talking about? Both of them were scared when they saw Momo's face, but they thought quickly. Kurumi, hey, you're not the one who saved this idiot and Miss Yaoyorozu, right? Izuku was surprised to see her. She was a human animal, but he only attributed it to his quirk, but when he saw her talking to him he only answered, yes, my name is Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you, miss. Kurumi, seeing that Izuku didn't know what to call her, it doesn't matter, call me Kurumi if you let me call you Izuku. Izuku, somewhat surprised, just nodded. Naoto, baya Izuku, you take your job very seriously. I thought they gave you the day off, but now you're taking care of Miss Yaoyorozu. Momo, Naoto, I've already told you to call me Momo, and I was just showing Izuku the place. Izuku, also I don't think he should take care of her in his own home, and one more thing is that thing that smells so good. Naoto, yes, it's true, I don't think it's necessary to take care of her all the time, and as for the other question, I don't know. I came to see what Kurumi was cooking. Kurumi is my favorite dengo food. Momo berry, I didn't know that was your favorite food as I always saw you eating soba, I thought you loved it. Kurumi, yes, I like it too, but dangos are the best. Hoi Izuku, do you want to try? Izuku, of course, I haven't eaten one in a long time. Naoto, hey Kurumi, can you give me some too? Kurumi, of course, sit down and I'll serve you, Miss Momo. Do you want it too? Momo, I'll take you up on your offer. Naoto and Momo sat down but watched as Izuku approached Kurumi. Izuku, come on, let me help you. Kurumi was amazed. She didn't think he would help her, but she was grateful and accepted his help. We can see how the four were eating some delicious dangos. Naoto and Kurumi were delicious. Momo, you're right, they taste great. Izuku, thank you very much, they were delicious. Kurumi, thank you, but I would like to ask you some questions. Izuku, of course, if you don't mind. Izuku just raised an eyebrow but didn't give it any importance. Of course, tell me. Kurumi, what is your gift? Everyone went back to see Izuku and wanted to know what his quirk was, even though Naoto and Momo had already seen it in action, they wanted to know his name. Izuku with an indifferent look spoke, my quirk is that of a villain, it is a black shadow. He knew what would happen, they would look at him with fear and try to argue with him. He had already gotten used to it, that's why he had never made friends after telling him his quirk. Everyone argued with each other, at first it hurt him, but as time went by he got used to it until he didn't care. Kurumi, seriously, your gift is that of a villain, she said seriously. Izuku sighed and knew what was going to happen, but to avoid problems he got up. Well, I'll understand if you hate me, and if you want me to leave in the end I'm used to it and I'll leave. As he started to leave the room he felt his shoulder being held. When he turned around he saw a fist heading for his face. Izuku, with no desire to dodge, just decided to take the blow. Kurumi, do you really think I'm going to hate you for your quirk? You're more of an idiot than Naoto. Naoto is true. Weight that offends. Changing the subject. Don't think that we hate you just because of your quirk. If you were a villain you wouldn't have saved us. Momo, it's true, a quirk doesn't define you. Izuku was surprised they were the first ones who didn't hate him, but he couldn't keep thinking when he felt Kurumi slap him. Kurumi, you don't have to think that everyone is going to hate you, not everyone thinks the same, and you could teach us how your quirk works so we can get to know each other better. Izuku put on a real smile, one he hadn't put on in a long time, but was interrupted by Momo. Sorry Kurumi, but I still have to show Izuku the facilities, it will be for next time. Kurumi just pouted but felt Naoto caress her head, it will be for next Kurumi. Momo just dragged Izuku out of the dining room, who only waved goodbye. Kurumi and Naoto looked at each other, their minds, you saw it too, right? They digested at the same time, right? With Momo and Izuku they were walking down a hallway in a somewhat awkward silence, but it was broken by Izuku. Izuku, Miss Yaoyorozu, I'm sure you want me to stay close to you. Momo just returned it, saying, Midoriya, I already told you, I don't care, I know what it feels like when people avoid you. Izuku was amazed but decided to stay quiet so she could continue talking. Momo, you might think it can't be possible, but the only friends I have are Naoto and Kurumi. They were the first ones who talked to me without criticizing me. All the people I wanted to be friends with were only interested in money and only talked to me to create things for them. That's why I never had real friends. That's why I know how you feel. Izuku could see how Momo had a sad face. He knew that what he was going to do was not right, but he had to do it. Momo felt like some arms surrounded her, but she felt a warmth in them and decided to reciprocate the hug of that green-haired man. They stayed like that for a few minutes until they separated, both in a better mood, decided to see the rest of the facilities, but neither of them noticed how the shine in his eyes reappeared. In the Midoriya's house, some astonished green-haired girls could be seen. The youngest green-haired girl was astonished, but the oldest was crying. You might wonder why. They had just received a letter from the Yaoyorozus informing them that their son was going to work for them as a bodyguard. They also saw a small check and a note. The note said, Hello, Mom, as you may have already read, I've started working for the Yaoyorozus. The offer said that while I work for them, you'd receive a monthly payment. I hope it helps. Inko and Izumi, upon seeing the check, opened their eyes because the check would help their mother quit her job. Inko always thinks about the other people in her head. Izuku, I hope one day we can see each other again. While with Izumi, Anakin worries about us. I hope that the next time we see each other you can forgive me. After Momo finished showing Midoriya the mansion, she could see that Izuku was tired, but it was obvious they spent about 3 hours showing him the whole place. Momo, that would be the whole mansion, I hope you can remember the paths to get to your room. Izuku, with a tired tone, I will try to find her. Momo, do you want to eat something? Kurumi could cook it. But at the moment of mentioning it they heard a voice, until I find you it will not be possible, daughter, I must talk to Midoriya about some things, follow me, boy. The green-haired boy just nodded, see you later, Miss Yaoyorozu, and continued walking behind Kurasama. After a while of walking, they both entered an office, but upon entering, Izuku could see how some men were. Kurasama, don't worry, we've come to fulfill our part of the deal. We'll give you your vigilante suit. The men approached Izuku, who, upon seeing how he measured Kurasama and seeing the measuring tapes, just sighed and knew it was going to be a boring time. After almost 2 hours we can see a Kurasama and an Izuku walking almost unconscious. They had done nothing more than being measured. To break the ice, Izuku asked when the suits would be ready. Kurasama will probably take 2 or 3 days until they finish it. Upon arriving at the common room, Izuku saw some sofas. Izuku returned to see Kurasama, who, upon seeing him, knew what he wanted. Kurasama, go ahead and lie down on the couch. Izuku with a sigh lay down on the sofa while Kurasama repeated the same action. It was noticeable that both were tired, but when both were going to go to the realm of dreams they were woken up by Arui, who did not look happy. Listen to you two, what's wrong? You can't sleep on the couches, and you also have to take care of your homework. Kurasama and Izuku just sighed and both at the same time just said okay. Rui just laughed, they were both so similar. Izuku, who didn't know what to do, just decided to go to the dining room to see Kurumi. He thought that maybe the others would be there. Upon entering the dining room, he noticed that only Kurumi was there. Izuku just entered at a slow pace, still very tired. Kurumi, upon hearing him enter, just turned to greet him. Kurumi, hi Izuku, it seems Momo finished showing you the facilities, and what did you think? Izuku with his head glued to the table, it seemed like a maze to me, and I was able to count more than 16 bathrooms. Kurumi, ha, well the same thing happens to all of us, but changing the subject, what brings you here? Izuku came to see if the others were here. Kurumi, nope, no one is there. Naoto had to take Miss Yaoyorozu to buy some things. Izuku waits, he shouldn't have gone with her. Kurumi, you're not free today, and it seems you were with Mr. Yaoyorozu. Izuku, you're right, but starting tomorrow I'll have to start my job as a coach and bodyguard. Kurumi, by the way, Izuku, can you teach me how your quirk works? Izuku lifted his head from the table and with a sigh made his shadow appear. Kurumi felt a terrifying aura when she saw the shadow, but after a few seconds that aura disappeared. She just shook her head. It's spectacular, but what can you do with it? Izuku, I have some skills, but I have something in mind that I want to master. Kurumi, and what would that idea be? She said with intrigue. Izuku, you'll know in the future. Kurumi just pouted, and Izuku, who looked at her, just laughed a little. She looked like a child. Izuku, hey Kurumi, how did you come to work for the Yaoyorozus? Kurumi, well, Mr. Kurasama had saved me from some men who wanted to take advantage of me, but he arrived and saved me. That's the only thing I remember before fainting. When I woke up, I found myself in the Yaoyorozu mansion, and in front of me was Mr. Yaoyorozu, who asked me about my family. Izuku noticed how Kurumi stopped talking when he looked back at her and saw how small drops came out. But when she was going to approach, she continued talking. My parents had been murdered by a villain who managed to escape. When the police saw that I had no other relatives, they took me to an orphanage where everything was going well until that man adopted me. He just wanted to take advantage of me with his friends, but then Mr. Kurasama arrived and saved me. When I told Mr. Yaoyorozu that, he let me stay where I met Naoto. A year later, he adopted me and let me stay and live there, so I took care of the cleaning to repay him for the favor. Izuku, sorry for making you remember your past. It wasn't but was interrupted by Kurumi. Kurumi, it doesn't matter, I wanted to tell someone. Kurumi, wiping away the few tears she had left, but how did you come to work for the Yaoyorozus? Izuku, you already know, they hired me to save the life of Miss Momo and Naoto, also to be able to train her. Kurumi, I already know that, I mean, how did you become so strong? How was your story? Izuku, he didn't want to talk about his past, but she told him how her life was and he knew he had to tell her. Well, before having my peculiarity I had a normal life, but when I activated it everything changed. My family began to fear me for not controlling my quirk, and my so-called friends began to make fun of me for having a villain's gift. But it wasn't just them, my sister also made fun of me. But on my birthday I couldn't stand it anymore and I lost control. I hurt my classmates and my family, but my gift by covering them cured them of all the damage I did to them, and it seemed to make them forget everything that happened. The only ones who remembered it were my family, who made the decision to abandon me, but I don't blame them either. I don't hate them. I knew it was because of me that they abandoned me. Izuku knew he couldn't mention the death of that hero or Astain either, so he decided to lie a little. Walking for a few days I was able to find an elderly man who took me in and trained me, but he passed away a few years ago. He was the one who trained me until I became strong. Then Miss Yaoyorozu and Naoto's accident happened, bringing me here. Kurumi, she knew he was lying a little since she could see under his clothes how he had scars all over, but she thought that in the future he would tell her the truth and wait. Both, to lighten the atmosphere, continued talking about their tastes, but Izuku made a fatal mistake since he had decided to play a game with Kurumi, but he did not know that no one could beat him in that game. When he lost he had to do whatever Kurumi wanted. Naoto and Momo were entering the mansion, but they heard two people who wouldn't stop laughing. When they went to the kitchen they could see how an Izuku was dressed as a maid while Kurumi and Rui were laughing since she went to see why Kurumi was laughing like crazy, but when she saw the green-haired man dressed like that she couldn't help but laugh with Kurumi. Momo and Naoto couldn't help but laugh when they saw Izuku. Izuku just had a big blush, but what Naoto said made him go into shock. Naoto was able to stop laughing for a moment and could see Kurumi's favorite game on the table. Naoto, haha Kurumi, you made him play that game, you should have told him that no one can beat you. Izuku was just in shock. He had fallen into a trap, but without waiting for anything else he took off his suit. After a few moments everyone retired to their rooms. Izuku was in his room, but he had a big smile. Is this what you meant, Astain, when you said that I shouldn't stay alone, that I should look for friends or find special people for me? The next day Izuku was warming up a little. He had his exercise routine to wake up completely. When he finished he went to Momo's room. When he knocked on the room he only heard a pass. When he entered he saw Momo in sportswear. Izuku, it seems you're ready, let's start your training. Momo just nodded, she was very excited. Both arrived at the mansion's gym. Upon entering, they could see several exercise machines, but Izuku did not follow those methods. He only made Yaoyorozu follow him. Upon leaving the mansion, Izuku began to warm up. Momo, so what are we going to do? Izuku, first we must improve your resistance. We are going to jog all around the mansion about 25 laps, then we are going to exercise, and to finish you will have a fight against me. This will be for the next 2 months until you get used to it. That's how Momo's training began. She spent the whole day doing what the green-haired boy had told her. By the afternoon she was able to finish the exercise, but she knew that she was missing the confrontation. Izuku let her rest for a moment since it was her first day and he was already used to that routine, even more so. A few moments later you can see how an Izuku was in a fighting pose while a Yaoyorozu was positioned in a pose that the green-haired man taught her, but it was seen that she had some openings which she would correct over time. When the fight began, Izuku quickly launched himself against Yaoyorozu, who did not react in time and received a kick in the stomach, causing her to spit saliva and fall to the floor. Izuku, we will have a lot of work and I only have 2 years to teach you what your parents told me. You plan to enter UA. Yaoyorozu, yes, but I'm going in by recommendation. Izuku just looked at her. You won't do it. Momo, but why? Izuku, everyone else is trying hard to get in and have a spot in that school, and if you want to get into that school you'll have to earn your spot like everyone else. Momo just nodded determinedly, and as the days passed, Izuku had to go to the same school as Momo, and what was expected happened. Everyone avoided him because of his quirk, but he didn't care. Upon returning from school, Izuku was called by Kurasama. Kurasama, your suit is ready. We'll leave it in your room and you can wear it whenever you want. As night fell, Izuku opened the briefcase where his suit was. With a smile he put it on and left the Yaoyorozu's house, but he realized that he was not alone. When he stopped he saw how Kurasama was behind him. Izuku turned around and saw Kurasama standing behind him in his vigilante suit. Izuku, what are you doing here? Kasura, you didn't think you were going to be alone, did you? Izuku, I look at him with an angry face. No way am I going to work with you. Kasura, you have no choice, come let's go, we have a mission. Izuku reluctantly followed him. 2 months had passed where Izuku had dedicated himself to Momo's training. Everyone would think he was crazy for doing a monstrous routine, but they didn't expect Momo to be able to complete it. Momo had improved enormously, which her parents saw and were very proud as they watched her through a window as the two of them were in the backyard. An Izuku was standing while we see how a Yaoyorozu was on the ground, but if you looked closely you could have seen how Izuku had a blow on his cheek. Momo, I finally managed to hit you. Izuku, congratulations, but don't get excited yet, you have to beat me, you don't just have to hit me. Also, you will have to keep practicing the fighting style that I taught you if you still have openings. Momo just nodded, but she noticed how Izuku had some scars and wanted to ask but didn't know how. Izuku, come on, that will be enough for today, starting to walk to the mansion. At night Izuku went out to patrol, but unfortunately for him Kurasama always accompanied him. So 10 months passed. Where Momo could already give a fight to Izuku, who was beginning to have difficulties in dodging, but he did not expect a low kick being thrown. When trying to recover he felt how Momo immobilized him, thus winning the fight. Momo, after all this time I finally beat you. Izuku, congratulations Momo, you have become very strong. That's right, Momo and Izuku had become great friends over all this time, but they saw Momo's parents approaching with a proud face. You got it Momo, you have improved and there is only 1 year left to be able to enter UA. I understand that you are also going to enter, not Izuku. Izuku just nodded. He finally felt like he had a home, but all of that would fall apart that same night. As night fell, Izuku was waiting for Kara. They had a mission and had to go to an abandoned place. When they arrived they couldn't see anyone, but they had to dodge an attack from a gigantic man. As they dodged they saw how the 8 precepts of death were found. Kasura, Izuku, be on your guard. This doesn't look good. Izuku just nodded. Chisaki, until we meet Kasura and Green Shade. Both of them said nothing and remained alert. Chisaki, well, you may be wondering why we're inviting you here. Well, the reason is that we want you to join us. Kara-sama, what makes you think we'll do well? Chisaki, well, we want you to join us so we can create a new world. Kara-sama, don't think we'll do it. Starting to retreat with Izuku, but Kara-sama didn't notice how they shot him. When she turned around she saw how Izuku had received the bullet. He had put himself in the middle. But when trying to activate his quirk he noticed that it didn't work. Chisaki, well, what a shame that you have not joined, we will have to finish you off. The 8 precepts had been launched against Izuku and Kara-sama, which they dodged with difficulty, but Kara-sama saw how Chisaki was going to touch Izuku and put his arm in front. He saw how when he was touched by Chisaki it exploded up to his shoulder. Izuku, turning around and seeing that scene, was scared. not knowing what he could do, and he managed to carry Karasuma and escape from the place. Precept, Mr. Chisaki, we follow them. Chisaki, don't let them know now that we are capable. Izuku ran with all his strength to a hospital. He could see how many people came out, he had to save him. Upon arrival, all the patients were frightened by the young man's condition and, without wasting any time, they admitted Karasuma. Izuku was outside, he had already called the Yaoyorozu family, he was crying, he didn't want to admit it but he was scared. Looking up he could see how Rui, Momo, Kurumi and Naoto arrived. Izuku could see the anguish. With his last will and testament he told them what happened to his vigilante state with Karasuma. Only Rui knew that her husband was a security guard, but everyone heard a slap. Rui, coming out of his thoughts, saw how Momo had hit Izuku. Momo, because of your damn carelessness, my dad is seriously injured. Naoto and Kurumi, seeing what she did, went and held her. Izuku just stood there without moving, his tears flowed out, but the next thing he said shattered him. Momo, and to think that I fell in love with you, you're just a monster, I should never have trusted you or your damn quirk, never come near me or my family again. Izuku looked up and saw the same thing as when he was 5 years old, his family looked at him with a look of horror, unable to bear it any longer, and ran out of the hospital. Rui, I just hug his daughter. Momo, I was blinded by anger. Naoto and Kurumi, they wanted to chase Izuku but he had already left too many Legos. Izuku, upon leaving the hospital, couldn't stop running. He just wanted to be alone. Without realizing it, he arrived at the park where he had been abandoned, unable to contain himself any longer, and let out a heart-rending scream. Izuku, forgive me, I didn't want that to happen, I didn't want him to be in danger, forgive me, Momo. Izuku couldn't stand it anymore, he didn't want more people to get hurt because of him. When he got up, dry, his last tears, his eyes were dark, they didn't represent any emotion. I will obey your last order, Momo, I will claim your family and you. Izuku headed to the Yaoyorozu mansion. Upon entering, he gathered some of his belongings in a backpack, but before leaving, he left a note with a box in Momo's room. As he was leaving the mansion, Izuku remembered his promise to Momo. Flashback. A green-haired man could be seen comforting Momo in a hug. The reason was that Yaoyorozu tried to defend herself from some men who wanted to abuse her, but being outnumbered, she was cornered, and when the men were going to touch Momo, they felt a murderous aura. When they turned around, they saw a green-haired man who looked angry. In a second, Izuku had appeared in front of the men, who were scared when they saw Izuku, but they didn't have time to think when they felt Izuku beating them up, leaving them unconscious. Izuku, Momo, do you feel by? But he was interrupted when he felt Momo hug him. Momo, sniff sniff, thanks for coming. Izuku didn't know what to do. Izuku doesn't pass Momo, I'm with you. Those words made Momo's heart beat faster. Momo, but one day you won't be around to defend me. Izuku, maybe that's true, but the day I'm not around will be because you no longer need my help. Momo became sad upon hearing that, Izuku just sighed upon seeing her. Izuku, let's make a promise. Momo, separating from the hug, she just waited for Izuku to continue. Izuku, in this time I have managed to learn a skill which allows me to separate my shadow. Whenever I can't protect you, it will appear and protect you. Momo, she could see how Izuku's shadow separated into two, the first part entered Izuku's shadow and the other part entered her shadow. Momo just hugged Izuku again. This will be our promise. End of flashback. Izuku, I don't think that promise is worth anything. Now she hates me, but I will keep that promise. She is the most precious thing I have. Although I didn't want to admit it, in all this time I ended up falling in love with you, Momo. Even if we don't see each other again, a part of me will continue to protect you. Thus disappearing into the night with the Yaoyorozu family, we could see how a Kurumi had slapped Momo. Kurumi, I know it hurts you that your father is hurt, it hurts me too, but Izuku didn't deserve you to talk to him like that. Naoto just held Kurumi. Kurumi, let me go. Naoto, she must know it wasn't Izuku's fault. Naoto, I know it wasn't right for me to say those words to her, but you can't react the same way to her either. Naoto turned to look at Momo. Naoto, Miss Momo, you better think about your words. Izuku is a person who suffered a lot and you telling him that surely affected him a lot. Rui, daughter, I know it hurts you, it's destroying my soul that your father is seriously injured, but you should know that Izuku is not to blame. Momo, she only had her gaze lowered and couldn't get out of her mind the look Izuku had when he heard her words. She knew she had ruined everything, but when she was about to speak, they saw Momo's shadow rise, but it had Izuku's form. Everyone in the room was amazed, but they saw how the shadow entered where Kara was being operated on. Suma, when they heard the doctor scream, the Yaoyorozu family entered and they could see how the shadow covered Kara. Suma, when they separated, they saw how her wound had disappeared, leaving a large scar. Izuku's shadow slowly fell into Momo's shadow. Everyone wondered how Izuku's quirk had been able to cure him. Elsewhere, Izuku was jumping from roof to roof. He wanted to find a person, he needed their help. Having them in front of him, he was going to move forward, but he felt like his body was being destroyed from the inside, falling unconscious. The next day we can see how the Yaoyorozu family was next to Kara Suma, who had entered a coma. The doctors had said that he would wake up in a week. The Yaoyorozu family was happy, their husband was no longer in danger, but they should wait for him to wake up. Everyone was greatly relieved, but they still didn't know where Izuku was. Naoto had searched for him in the mansion and around the city, but there was no trace of him. With Momo, she was greatly relieved. Her father was fine, but she wanted to talk to Izuku. She knew she shouldn't have spoken to him like that, but she was worried when she found out that Naoto hadn't found him. Rui had entered the aviation and had gone to sign some papers to have her husband transferred to her home. After a few hours, everyone returned to the mansion, but no one could find Izuku. When everyone was about to give up, they heard Momo crying. As they entered her room, they saw that she had a letter and a box. Rui had to hold his daughter, who wouldn't stop crying, and repeat, "This is my fault, she left because of me." Naoto went and picked up the letter, and as he began to read it, he felt tears coming out. Izuku's letter. Momo, I know you hate me. I won't ask for your forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I'm also grateful to have met you. You were and always will be the first with whom I could open my feelings without fear of rejection. I know that all feelings for me died last night, but even if you don't want me around, I will keep the promise I made to the woman I love, that I would always protect you. I would like to be with you and share my life by your side, but I know that now it is not possible. I know that you will achieve everything you set out to do. Tell Kurumi that she was a sister and that she should not bother Naoto anymore and not eat so many sweets. Tell Naoto from me that he was a brother and I will never forget him. Tell Rui that she was a mother to me. I would like to tell him to his face, but I don't think we will ever see each other again. Momo, I want you to know that I will always love you, and in the box is the gift I planned to give you when I was ready to confess my feelings to you. This is my farewell forever. Everyone shed a few tears. They couldn't believe that Izuku was saying goodbye, but when Momo opened the box, she cried again. In the box, there was a necklace with the words "For the woman I love and will love, Momo Yaoyorozu," engraved on it, but when she picked it up, she saw how she had been pointing at a photo when they both went out as friends for the first time. Everyone shed tears. They couldn't believe that Izuku was saying goodbye, but when Momo opened the box, she cried again. In the box, there was a necklace. It had the words "For the woman I love and will love, Momo Yaoyorozu" engraved on it, but when she picked it up, she saw how. Seeing him, Momo pressed the necklace against her chest. She knew she couldn't fix what she did. She knew Izuku wouldn't come back. Rui hugged her daughter. She knew how hard this was for her since Momo had asked her for help to declare her love to Izuku. Naoto and Kurumi joined in the hug, both of whom were crying because they couldn't see their brother again. With Izuku, upon waking up he could see a person sitting in front of him. "How come you wake up, kid? I thought you were dead. I haven't heard from you in a long time." Izuku felt great happiness when he saw him. "I'm glad to see him again, this sensei."